What's up and what's happening, TPE fam? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience where our aim and goal is just to push progress over perfection. Today, we have a very special guest. This is someone who I had a chance to run into and get to know back in 2019. We've always stayed in touch. I've admired and watched what he's done over the past few years, and he's watching what I'm doing from a community involvement standpoint. This young man currently serves our city as a port commissioner at large, where he ran in 2019 and won the election and was able to be in this position. I've seen nothing but positive impact and positive community engagement from this young man. He is a walking historian for a lot of the things that are good, that are great, that's happened in this city. He comes from a family of community involvement, come from a family of community engagement, and ultimately comes from and is still pushing the mindset of trying to do better for the people who live here in our city, and create opportunities for economic growth for everyone that lives here. I'm talking about none other than the Dr. David Willard. It was a joy and a pleasure to interview this individual. This interview is jam packed with nuggets of wisdom, just different things to think about, mindsets, shifts, and more. So I definitely hope you guys get a chance to enjoy this episode. Let's jump right in.
Take this mind of mine.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode with a very, very, very special guest. I bumped into this gentleman, I want to say 2019. We were both campaigning for different positions. And unfortunately for me, I lost in my endeavors. But fortunately for our community, this young man has stepped up and taken on the position of being a port commissioner at large for here in our city. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Willard. Dr. Willard, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing fine, Alex. It's good to see you.
Great. And so I couldn't help whenever I started tinkering with the idea of interviewing people. You were one of the people who were on my list. I think we had a great rapport. I think we had a great relationship during when we were on the campaign trail, going from place to place. And you were just a very solid individual. And talking about some
Thank you.
degrees of separation, I think, I don't know if it's your aunt, was one of my elementary school teachers back in the day, Mrs. Willard. And I remember when they built the Elmo Willard Library, and so
Yeah.
I live right up the street from that library, and just to have someone of your esteem and someone of your just stature on the TPE, the Pivot Experience, I'm very thankful and very grateful for you to bring your insight and your perspective to our audience. Because if you don't know it or not, this whole show, the whole premise of the show is to help people pivot into their next. I realize that all of us are different leaders at different levels, entry level, seasoned. We're transitioning in different seasoned areas of our lives, but I always feel like there's another level that we can get to, because I feel like leadership is a never ending journey. And so I think that I will serve our community well to have a voice like yours kind of come on the show. And so with all that being said, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? What are some things that are important to you?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on your show. I feel the same way about you when we met. You're right. It was 3 years ago, 2019. We met in certain campaign stops and some neighborhood commissions I think we were both speaking at. And I recognized in you something that this community needs, which is a young leader who's willing to get out there and put himself forward to try to help this community. You got a lot going for yourself you're a lot on the ball, as evidence of this program and what you're doing here. You're highly respected in the community yourself, and so I'm very appreciative of being on your show and happy to be here. A little bit about myself. So I'm a native of Beaumont. My family has been here. I'm the fifth generation of Willards that's been here in Beaumont. We've been here from the very start of this community, of this city. The family itself started as slaves here in Beaumont. and then transitioned out of slavery. And each of the previous generations of my family contributed quite a bit to this community in a number of different areas: education, business, law, of course, and community and civic service. And so I moved back here. I think it's been 15 years now. Can't believe that much time has gone by. But I moved back here 15 years, went away to college, to Morehouse College when I graduated from high school. Stayed gone for quite a while. Lived in Washington, D.C. for a long time. That's where I got into the field of education, profession of education. I moved from Washington, D.C. To Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I entered into Harvard Graduate School of Education and got two master's and a doctorate degree from there in education. My mother was here by herself. She and I were the last remaining members of my immediate family, and she was getting older and was here by herself. I married a wonderful woman from Beaumont by the name of Kim Taft. That's her maiden name. And she is part of the Taft family and Mercy Funeral Home family. And I married her while I was still in graduate school. And after getting married to her, both she and I decided that it was probably best for us to relocate here in Beaumont, be close to our families and things of that nature. So that's what got me back here. I'm currently the Dean of Students and Administrator at All Saints Episcopal School, which is located on Delaware Street, right with shares uh, grounds and space with St. Stephen's Church, Episcopal Church. Um, well, ironically and coincidentally, it is the school that I attended as a child. I was the first African American student to go to All Saints way back in the horse and buggy days. And now I'm currently working there and have been working there since I moved back here to Beaumont. So that's kind of my story. In 2019, um, after, you know, getting my feet wet and reacclimating myself to being home, serving on a couple of boards here in Beaumont in various capacities. Um, the opportunity to run for port commissioner came about. The longtime commissioner whose place I took was retiring. He'd been on the port for 30 years, and that position became available. And I decided to throw my hat in the ring and see if I could serve in another capacity, and was fortunate enough to win that election. And so I've been now on the port board for 3 years, going closing in on four, and it's been really good. It's been really good to be back home and to serve the community that raised me.
Okay, so that was wow. That was a massive intro. I think I might have learned a few things, and not in a bad way. I mean, just it speaks to just who you are, how important you are to our community. So I appreciate you introducing yourself to our audience, and I guess you kind of answered the question of what made you want to become a port commissioner. But I know I cannot be the only person out there that says, like, what exactly is it that you do?
Well, my interest in the port actually goes back a long way. I actually worked at the port as a teenager. I was interested in purchasing a car. My father was Elmo Willard, who some of your viewers, depending upon their age, may know, may have heard of. And he knew just about everybody in this town. He was an attorney here, knew just about everybody from all walks of life. And I wanted to get my first car, and went home one day and told my dad I needed a car. And I jokingly tell people that he said, "Well, you need a job," and he knew folks who were working down at the port, and came home and told me, he said, "Well, I got you a job if you want it, and it's paying pretty good." And so I said, "Sure, what is it?" And he told me it was down at the port. At that time, I didn't even know Beaumont had a port. And so I started working down there as a teenager, worked during the summer. And so my affiliation with it and knowledge about it goes back to those days a long time ago. And that's when the port was a grain centered port. All that summer long, I threw 140-pound sacks of flour in the hulls of ships and filled those hulls up to where you could step right off of the flour and right onto the deck of the ship, and then catch a ladder and climb down. And so when this opportunity came up to run for office, um, there still are a lot of people in this area who were like me when I was a teenager, didn't even know that Beaumont had a port. And the Port of Beaumont is one of the central links, not only in this area and in the Gulf Coast and in Southeast Texas, but actually in the world. What a lot of people may not realize, because we have trucks and highways and we have big jets and things of that nature. 85%, 85 to 90% of the goods that we buy and that we need to get through our daily lives are still transported by ship. They're not transported by plane, they're not transported by rail or trucks. All of those things are used in the delivery of our goods, but the vast majority of our goods are transported by ship. And Beaumont plays a major, major part in that. The Port of Beaumont plays a major part in that. It is at one time, it's dropped down a little bit. It was the fourth largest port in terms of tonnage. Tonnage is one of the ways that you can measure the life and the health of a port. How much tonnage moves through a port, meaning the types of goods, the weight of the goods that move through a port. And the more tonnage that port deals with, the healthier and the more life that port actually has, the more important it is. And at one time, when I first got on the port, Beaumont was fourth in the nation in terms of tonnage. It's number one in terms of military cargo in the country. It moves more military cargo throughout the world than any other port in the United States of America. It is responsible for billions of dollars of direct and indirect dollars flowing through this area. And just not a lot of people know about that at all. It's a well kept secret in this community. And I thought that I might be able to sort of help change that a little bit. First of all, to help the port continue to do what it does, which it does very well, and then also to educate people a little bit more about what it does and the importance of what it does.
Man, I would say if we were just to cut it off right here, I think we've just gained a wealth of knowledge, because I think I've heard you talk about some of this stuff. I recall you talking about some of these things on the campaign trail, but now that you've been in it for 3 years, that blade's a whole lot more sharper. And I think just there's not enough people, I agree with you, that know the ins and outs, and they don't have to necessarily know the details of what's going on, but just that peripheral viewpoint, I think is huge, and it just speaks to the strength of the city. And I think there's a large portion in two things. There's a large segment of our community that think that there's not a lot of economy here, where you just explained that there is. In terms of the amount of you said 90 to 95% of the goods transported is by boat, and then Beaumont at one point very recently was the fourth largest port in terms of tonnage. I think that speaks to the economic impact that we have as a city. And then two, right, I would imagine with that level of economic opportunity, there's jobs available. There's right, job availability, not here in Beaumont, but it's all over. And so, right, I know, let me pivot into that a little bit. What can you speak to of the job opportunities or opportunities themselves for anybody who is interested in making this a career path?
Right. So that was another reason why I wanted to try to pursue this. The maritime industry as a whole, pursuing a career in the maritime industry is one of the best careers that somebody could get into. It's a lifelong career. It's excellent money to be made because of the importance of shipping goods, via ports and via ships. It's always a job that's going to be in need. And the Port of Beaumont is no different. And so I wanted to let young people who are searching for a career, young people who are looking to maybe stay in this area and continue their roots in this area, know that there are a lot of opportunities to pursue maritime industry work, and to kind of help in that manner to sort of, for those who are interested, to sort of ease that transition for them to get into that work. And recently, as you know, we just found out about a golden opportunity. Sade Chick, who is the director of corporate affairs at the Port of Beaumont, turned me on to a young man by the name of Kevin Sykes, who is the director of safety over in Houston, Texas, with the maritime industry there. Um, and he told us about a training program in Maryland that is absolutely free of charge to all those who apply. Free of charge means that their food, their room and board, lodging, food, their tuition for the courses that they're going to have to take during this training, all of that is paid for once they get to Maryland and once they apply to the program. You don't have to have a GED. You don't have to have a high school diploma in order to be eligible for the program. You can even have a criminal background as long as it's not a violent offense that's on your background. You just need to apply. And convened a meeting exactly 1 week ago, a week and 2 days ago, with area pastors here in Beaumont to tell them, and we brought Kevin over to speak with them and tell them about the program and how one can apply. Our thinking was that the congregations in this area, the churches in this area, have an outreach to everyone, and by informing them, they can inform their congregations about this opportunity. Um, and the thinking is not everybody's going to go to a 4-year college. Um, People may not even go to a 2-year college, but they still want to make a good living. They want to be able to raise a family. They want to be able to buy a house. And the maritime industry provides all of those opportunities for them. And if you decide that you want to get into the maritime industry and you want to go continue up the ladder, uh, by pursuing this in your college years, going to college and getting a 2-year degree or getting a 4-year degree, you can do those things and come out with your degree and go even further in the maritime industry. So they're all different ways to approach this, all different avenues to get into this field, and not enough young people know about it. So that's what we're trying to do, is let them know about
And I think, and this is a little off script, but I think that's one of the most important things I admire about your leadership is that you are really thinking about how do we combat some of these major issues in our community. And one of the biggest thing is the economics. If you can improve somebody's economy in terms of their household economy, you redirect a lot of things.
it.
And
Right.
I can appreciate you from as a person from this community, a person who wants to continue to raise his family in this community. I appreciate your leadership in that capacity, thinking about, and I know it might just come with the job, right? But I think that I was at that meeting when you brought the individual there, and I can tell that, I mean, you didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? And I feel that you care about this community in particular in terms of trying to make it better and trying to redirect some of the money back into our homes, and so people can not take alternative routes. So I just want to say I appreciate you for that. And actually, what I'm going to do, just kind of peeling behind the veil a little bit, and this is being recorded, but I'm going to release that part of this interview much earlier than I'm originally going to release this whole thing. And so just to kind of, I want to get the word out on that, because I know,
Yeah.
me, myself, I work at Chick-fil-A. I know I can't, one, furnish jobs for everybody. I mean, not to say it's my direct responsibility, but I play a role in that. And, there's people who need an alternative opportunity that's going to be able to raise the stakes for them in terms of what they can do from a financial standpoint. And so I just wanted to make sure that you knew that, because I feel like there's not enough people who know about that. There's not
Yeah.
enough people that have access to not say access to the knowledge, because I know it's there, but it's just getting the word out, and I want to contribute in that area. So I'm going to make sure that that's getting highlighted for sure.
And tell people that they can contact me. Get in touch with you, and if they want to reach out to me to find out more about this. One of the things Beaumont always talks about, and it's not just me myself, but it's people on the city council and other people who are trying to steer this city in the right direction, is we have a brain drain in this community a lot of the time. So we have some of our best and brightest who go away to college and they never return to this area. So we raise these young people. They're smart. They've got energy, they've got youth on their side, they've got brains on their side, talent on their side. And then we lose them to Austin and to Houston and to Dallas and to all these other urban areas around the state. And primarily, we do that because they think that there's really not any opportunity for them here. There's not any opportunity for them to make a good living. There's not an opportunity for them to put down roots, buy a house, all of those kinds of things. And here is something right in their own backyard that they can really go far in. They can start doing it right out of high school, maybe even while they're in their senior year of high school. The port also just started an apprenticeship program. We've got our first apprentice internship, not really apprentice, but an internship program. We've got our first intern coming on board in the next couple of months. So we've got, and that person is a senior in high school now. That intern will be is a senior in high school and going on wanting to study this on in college. And so here's something right in their very own backyard that they can take advantage of, and the community doesn't end up losing them to another area in the state of Texas. So that's something I really want to try to emphasize to your listeners, that if you're interested in this, and if you just even want to know more about it, you didn't know anything about it, and you're like, that sounds like something I might want to check out, then reach out to me and I can give you some more information about it.
And man, that's awesome. And I'm gonna just wear that out. I don't care if people get tired of seeing it, hearing it. We're gonna package that thing. I'm gonna try to get that out to as many people as possible, and I'm gonna try to get other people to post it too. Because if we talk about wanting to make our city better and safer and all of these things, the people we got to get more. We just got to get more money in people's hands at the right way, and give them the opportunity to do it the right way. And so, I'm wholeheartedly behind that. And so, next thing, so thank you so much for elaborating on that. I appreciate that. Next thing I kind of want to just talk about, and I think you've been talking about this the whole time, but I want you to put it in I guess your words to sum it up. What would you call your leadership style? Obviously, it sounds like to me that you lead by serving first. And you've taken that in just in me listening to you talk, but in your own words, how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, my if you want to call it leadership, I don't really know if that's the proper word for it, but my whole thing can be summed up in the Bible passage that says, "To whom much is given, much is required." I was born, as I see it, I was born blessed. I was born lucky. I was born into a family that had a good reputation, and personally growing up, I didn't really want for anything. I didn't, I was provided the best education that they could afford to give me. I wasn't struggling for a meal and things of that nature. And I remember when I was about 10 years old, my mother and father and I were talking, and my father looked at me and said, David, you're gonna get to the point pretty soon here in your life where you're gonna have a choice to make. And you can choose to either help others, or you can say, I don't give a blank about anybody else. I'm going to help myself. And he said, I hope that you have paid attention to your mother and myself and have seen the decision that we made on that choice, and that you will follow suit. And, I was paying attention. And so that kind of sums it up for me, that that's kind of the way I was raised, and it's really the way that I'm hardwired. And so I want to try to live up to that credo, that not to just sit here and not help others, because the shoe could have been on the other foot. I could have easily been born into a situation where things were really, really hard for me, and maybe both parents were there, or maybe we were really struggling for money and to keep a roof over our head, or things of that nature. And that wasn't my lot in life. And so I need to make sure that the people who are born into those kinds of situations, that I do what I can for them to get them out of those situations. So that kind of sums it up in terms of leadership style, I guess.
Man, I can't tell you just how impactful you saying the what you said about your parents, and how through their modeling, it has helped you understand the necessity to serve. And at the end of the day, like, I know me as a parent, I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right all the time, but I at minimum, I want to at least leave breadcrumbs for my kids to see that, hey, daddy was about serving other people. He wasn't always self-serving. He earmarked time to be able to help other folks advance. You know what I mean? And so that's, I think, as parents, that's, I don't know if that's, I don't want to say that's not enough of that, but I feel like we can just continue to do more of that. We can continue to pour into our children in that capacity, man. So I appreciate you definitely sharing in that regard, sharing that that.
I really did see that as a kid. I just want to kind of tack on to that. I mean, I really did see that as a kid. I remember, like my father had a charge account. I was growing up at the time when Beaumont actually really had a downtown. So there were stores and things like that, clothing stores, and, it was a real downtown area. And, I remember my dad, like, there were some teenagers, he knew a lot of young people and he knew their families. And, Beaumont was a very close knit community. So basically, kind of everybody knew one another. And there were, there were kids who were growing up in the circumstances that I described, and less than fortunate circumstances. And my father would, like, just give them, he would go down to, there was a store downtown. I think it was Butch Hoffer's downtown, which was a men's clothing store. And he would buy clothes for these guys, and put them on his charge account. And because they needed clothes, they couldn't afford to buy things, they had to go to school, they had to, and they just didn't have anything. So, I mean, I really did see this sort of thing in action, the kinds of things that he did and that my mother did, and that other members of my family did. The house that I live in right now, I used to hear stories. One of the people that lives across the street has been living here since she was a child, and my great aunt, who was living in this house when I was growing up, she was a teacher here in Beaumont, and she had a library here in the house with a Dewey Decimal System in place. And the neighborhood kids, she would get the neighborhood kids to come over and check out books, just like if you go down to the library, like if you go to the Elmo Willard Library and they have the Dewey Decimal System where you check out a book and so forth and so on, they would check out books, and they could sit around here in the house and they could read them here, or they could take them home and bring them back and check out another book. She had piano lessons going on here in the house. I mean, it's just kind of the family that I grew up in, and so I just am trying to do my part and live up to the name that I've been given. So that's basically it.
Man, I am just I don't know, like a kid in a candy store. There's just the rich history, the inspiration. Honestly, when you think you're doing enough, that you find out the lady had a library in there in the living room. You think yo, I just left a meeting from at the chamber dealing with some kid things, and I said, all right, I went spoke at a school yesterday, and like, yeah, I'm doing my part, and this lady, she had a library. I can't, I don't know if I can compete with that. Not to say it's about that, but still though, when you, and I don't say I'm competitive, but I kind of am. But it's like when I see somebody, man, they did that, I want to be able to do that too. I want to be able, and it's all about the level of giving, because I feel like as you continue to see people push that envelope, it just inspires you to want to do more, and inspires you to want to give more, man. Because that, to me, I don't do this. I don't send out clips too early. I like to try to just roll the episode out when it's time to roll it out. But there's so much here that I will feel selfish just to keep it to myself. So some of this stuff I'm gonna tease out, because man, I'm being blessed by it, and so I'm gonna forego one of the questions for the sake of your time, and I understand, that's all right.
Got a few
She
dogs in the background, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. They let me know that's my my 2 minute warning. So I'm just I hear 'em. They let me know. So last
That's what
question.
happens on live. You know, when you're live, that those kinds of things happen. You
Nah,
know.
it's a okay, man. We're not exactly live, but I am going to. I don't edit. I don't like to edit. I like to keep it as pure as possible. So this is real. This lets you know. This,
Right.
yeah, But if you could start all the way over, man, this might not even be a great question. If you could start all the way over, and you ran into your younger self, what advice would you give yourself given your current experiences now?
I don't think I would change a whole lot because I'm one of these kinds that I've gotten to the age now. This is not because of, you know, it's not. It's only because I've gotten to the age now where I fully realize that I would not be where I am today, talking to you and doing what I'm doing today, had I not gone through the things that I went through in my past. So you got to put in a certain number of years in order to get to that realization. But if I could change anything at all, it would probably be, um, you know, it took me a moment or two, to be honest with you, to kind of really find my path, and to trust in my instincts and my gut. I did go down a few paths where I was trying to follow in others' footsteps. You know, I tried a couple of avenues, the corporate America avenue, which was definitely not for me, and I even went to law school. I went to law school where my dad graduated from law school. Went to Howard Law School and tried that, and just knew that law was not going to be how I was going to give back and how I was going to, serve the community and just be me. And so I left law school. And all along, all the time, when I say about trusting my instincts, is even when I was going down those paths, I knew in my gut that it was not something that I really wanted to do. But, with corporate America, you know, Morehouse was big on that. I had a guy who was the director of sort of um, oh oh man, I guess you would call it human relations now, but he was the one who was responsible for when you got to be a junior and senior, for hooking you up with internships and then trying to make sure that you interviewed with all the businesses that came through to get a job when you graduated and so forth and so on. His name was Benjamin McLaurin, and he really took a shine to me and really was very kind to me. And Morehouse was big on corporate America and business and Fortune 500 companies, and sort of trying to get blacks into that field, and to move them through those doors. And so he was really like, David, you got what it takes to do this, and I'm going to guide you and help you do that. And he did. And I ended up getting an internship and working in New York City one summer. And then from there, I got a full time job at a very prestigious, very hard to get position in banking in Chicago, Illinois. But I kind of knew all along, even after I finished up the internship that summer, that this was not something I really wanted to do. But I kind of started down that path and felt like, I couldn't let Benny Mac, everybody called him Benny Mac. I couldn't let Benny Mac down, because he invested a lot of time in me and stuff, and I just couldn't let him down. But I kind of knew I didn't want to do that. And I also kind of knew I didn't want to go to law school. So my father had gone. I got a cousin who I was really close with who graduated from Howard Law School and is still a lawyer today. So I was like, okay, yeah, let me give this a shot. So if I had any kind of regret at all, it would be to trust my instincts more and to kind of start on my own path a little sooner maybe than I did. And it was my mom that got me kind of to think about education and getting into the field of education. And from the moment I got into it, I knew like this is it. This is what I want to do. I was good at it right from the very start. They told me, principals and people I was working with school says you're a natural. I had never done it before, and they were like, "Yep, this is it. You're a natural at this." So that would be my only sort of regret. But by and large, I really don't. I don't have any regrets about any of the, any of the things. I tell young people all the time, and I'll end with this: part of life is not only finding out what you want to do in life, but it's also finding out what you don't want to do in life. And Once you can start scratching those things off the page and saying, nope, don't want to do that. Nope, don't want to do that. The quicker you'll get to your own path and what it is that you really do want to do. So,
Well, I mean, well, thank you so much, Dr. Willard. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you just sharing with us those great opportunities. We're going to put that out to the community as soon as possible. Just your story. I think your story needs to be told, and it needs to be told more often. You're almost like a hidden gem, and I think you should be celebrated more. And I just want to do my part in trying to give you your flowers and just kind of get your message out there. I know you're not doing it for that. I know you don't do it for that, but I just want to try to just extend that appreciation to you and just what your family's history and what you're currently blazing, continuing to write in that book. That keep continuing to add in chapters to our already rich history. So, man, I hope TPE. I hope you guys got some out of that today. I thank you, Mr. Willard. I keep saying Mr. Willard, Dr. Willard, for your time, and I definitely appreciate the things that you have given our audience to help them pivot. And so, until next time, family, peace.